Thank you for your patience. I think several of us were on 70 westbound, and just another reminder how grateful we are for our police officers and firefighters and paramedics who are responding to a big accident there. So thanks for your patience, but it's a great day here in the city of Columbus. We know it is cold and gray, but there are some great bright spots in this community because of the amazing work of our Division of Police and all of our community partners. All of us have been working together and stepping up our efforts in unprecedented ways to strengthen community safety and bring down violent crime across our city. To that end, we saw dramatic improvements last year in several key areas. most notably homicides, which are down 17%. Felonious assaults, which are down 25% compared to 2023. We're also really proud of the great work our detectives and officers are doing. 76% homicide solve rate. That's incredible work. But that's also a place we need to thank the community, because we've had more tips and information shared with the police from the community than ever before. We think the investment of time and energy of our officers in proactive community policing, in addition to their incredible work on investigations, is one of the reasons we're seeing some success. These crime tips are now coming in at historic levels, and as you can see, they're making a positive difference in the lives of our neighbors. At the heart of it all is a broad and consistent collaboration of every kind and at every level, because this moment in our city's history deserves no less. Whether it's connecting with our neighbors to engage in candid and constructive dialogue, or enlisting the resources and expertise of determined community partners and law enforcement agencies spanning our city, state, and region. Columbus is proving the possibility and the merits of a 21st century community policing model. This work is rooted in our comprehensive neighborhood safety strategy, which encompasses prevention, intervention, and enforcement to disrupt the cycle of violence and to hold violent criminals accountable. You'll hear more about some of those efforts in just a few moments. I'm grateful to Chief Bryant and all of our officers for their leadership and commitment to keeping Columbus families safe, and for making our city safer and more secure for future generations. And while we're proud of the success we've seen, we know that now is not the time to grow complacent or overconfident. Now is the time to sustain and build upon all that we've accomplished by moving forward with a sense of urgency and purpose. While we celebrate this success, I want us to be the safest big city in America. And I know, and you know, we're not there yet. It's why in my proposed operating budget allocates $774 million for neighborhood safety, including funding for 3 police class recruit classes, which can yield as many as 180 new officers. This is the 4th consecutive year we've made a commitment of this magnitude to further grow our police forces as we continue to grow as a city and as a region. We also remain mindful of the rise in domestic violence incidents that are occurring throughout our community, a trend we're seeing play out nationally and globally as well. I've asked Director Rena Shack in the city's Office of Violence Prevention to lead a community-wide effort to address this issue head-on. This is where the prevention and intervention components of our comprehensive safety strategy have an impact. And we're taking a deep dive in deploying new resources to confront domestic violence in the year ahead. The spike in domestic violence homicides cannot be solved by the Division of Police. That's a place where the rest of the community needs to step up, provide more resources and support to get women and children and families out of domestic violence situations before those situations escalate and a fatality takes place. To talk more about CPD's many accomplishments and what more we can expect in 2025, it's my pleasure to turn it over to our Chief of Police, Elaine Bryant. Chief.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Mayor Ginther, Director Pashadi, for all your support this year. Thank you to all the men and women, sworn and civilian, of the Division of Police. It's your hard work and commitment that was able to get us where we are today. And thank you to our community for your support and collaboration. Because of these collaborations, we've seen significant strides in reduction in crime, as well as increased community engagement and relationships. 2024 has had its challenges, we know that, for the division, but we also have saw a continuation of progress and change. Some of those included our non-fatal shooting pilot program, our expansion of the DV Stop program, our public order, public safety success, the creation of the Diversity and Inclusion Unit, our ABLE training, which stands for Active Bystandership for Law Enforcement. We as a division already adhered to a duty to intervene. The ABLE training is just another tool to help officers. All officers across the division receive training that was designed to reduce officer mistakes, give officers tools on how to intervene to prevent misconduct, and promote health and wellness for officers. We saw a reduction in homicides, just as the mayor spoke about, a reduction in overall felonious assaults. We took over 3,000 firearms off the streets of Columbus in 2024, including Glock switches and ghost guns. We conducted several operations aimed at addressing crimes in our communities. Some of those operations included Burnout, Moonlight, Safe Streets, Unity, and multiple directed patrols and summer safety initiatives. We've had some significant success with our CGIC unit, which is a Crime Gun Intelligence Center, our gang enforcement efforts, our mini real-time crime center, and our recruiting efforts of both sworn and civilian personnel. In a moment, you will hear from the assistant chiefs in more detail about these initiatives and our crime stats. Assistant Chief Bacher oversees our patrol and criminal investigations. Assistant Chief Thomas oversees public accountability and support services. And First Assistant Chief Potts oversees community and wellness and special operations. This leadership team has worked tirelessly to ensure we stay on task, and they continue to come up with new ideas to serve our community and serve our division. I want to publicly acknowledge them and thank them for the work that they do. I will ask Assistant Chief Bacher to come up now so he can talk to you about the specific stats and initiatives in his subdivisions.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Greg Bodker, Assistant Chief over the Operations Branch. Over the next 12 slides, what you will see is some detail and some high-level descriptions of crime statistics in the city for 2024. I'll start by letting you know that I oversee the Operations Branch, which includes the Criminal Investigation Subdivision, which is led by Deputy Chief Smith Weir, and the Patrol Subdivision. One change in 24 from 23 is that Patrol is now one subdivision instead of two. That is overseen by Deputy Chief Kelly Weiner. And the statistics that I'm going to talk about will encompass the first several slides. After that, I'm going to go into detail about some of the operations and projects that we've run throughout the city in different neighborhoods, some operations that you may have seen or taken part in or reported on. And so we'll start with the first slide with our homicides from 2024. On some of these slides, I'll go into detail and I will talk about what's on the slide. On some of them, I'll let you take in the numbers that you see, and I will add some context and information related to the specific slide. As the mayor talked about and the chief talked about, we saw a decline in homicides in the city of Columbus in 2024. 124 homicides, down from 23 and down from 2022. One thing that you will see on there that might jump out is in 2024, there were 23 homicides that were related to domestic violence. Although the number is down, that percentage is up from 2023. About 18.5% of our homicides in 2024 were domestic violence related. One thing that you will also see fall slightly in 2024 is gunshots related to homicides. So of our homicides, 83% of our victims were shot, and 83%. Down 1.5% from 23 and down about 6% from 2022. If you take a look at ages of our victims and suspects that have been identified in our homicide investigations, in 2024, homicide victims under the age of 21 were 31.4%, and suspects, people who allegedly committed those homicides under the age of 21 last year, were 50.8%. What you won't see up there is some of our solve percentages. That was referenced by Mayor Ginther and Chief Bryant. And so as I go through these statistics, there's two factors that you will see in common. One is a decrease in reported crimes in our city, and two is an increase in solvability, largely due to the work being done in patrol and in our detective bureau. In 2024, as was stated earlier, our homicide detectives solved 94 of 124 homicides for a solve rate of 75.8%. Additionally, they solved 30 other homicides from years past for an overall solve rate of just over 100%. In 2023, our in-year solve rate was 75.1%, and our overall solve rate was 91.9%. In 2022, our in-year solve rate was 63%, and overall solve rate was 79%. 2022 is a key year because we reorganized how we investigate and how we staff our homicide bureau with 6 homicide teams that respond on a rotating basis now. And so what you've seen each year is a decrease in homicides and an increase in solvability, two great things that we want. Also, so you're aware, we keep our finger on the pulse of not just Columbus, but we look around major cities throughout the United States, and Columbus has one of the highest solve rates in homicide, and we have declined. Of the major cities, if you take a look at real-time crime index, homicide has fallen, however, not to the extent in most cities that it has fallen in Columbus. And we can move on to the next slide. Felony assaults. There's a lot of ways to break down felony assaults and information related to felony assault investigations. If you take a look at the statistics, the raw numbers, in 2024, there were 1,188 felony assaults. It's about a 12.8% decrease of reported felony assaults overall from 2023. Included in that, kind of a breakout from all felony assaults, which includes stabbings, blunt force trauma. Included in that are gunshots. And so in 2024, there were 330 non-fatal shootings. 304 of those were investigated by our felony assault unit. The rest were investigated by homicide detectives, domestic violence detectives, or robbery detectives. One area that you won't see on there that we're very proud of, non-fatal shootings in 2024, the solve rate for a non-fatal shooting increased to 40.5%, and that's up from 26.7% in 2023. In addition to gunshots, 19.6% of the people that were victims of felonious assaults were victims of blunt force trauma. About 10% were victims of stab wounds. And the overall solve rate for our felony assault unit was 57.3%. Additionally, those detectives solved 149 other cases that did not occur this year. That's compared to 47.5% solve rate in 2023 and 28.9% solve rate in 2022. These increases in solve rates are due to a few things. In March, Chief Bryant approved a pilot called the non-fatal shooting pilot, which largely took place in North and South Linden. This was a team of detectives, felony assault unit detectives, in addition to patrol officers that joined that team, and they would respond to any non-fatal shooting in the Linden area. That team is still operational today, and to date they have solved 62% of the cases that they have been assigned just in the Linden area. So a smaller geographic area, but they've solved 62% of those cases. In addition to that, those detectives, that team has solved 53 other non-fatal shootings that occurred in Linden in years past. And so they're removing some bad people from the street. Shift over real quickly to Accident Investigation Unit, which you won't see up there, but these are also professional investigators that investigate deaths and serious injuries and accidents. And to give you some context, in 2024, they investigated 154 major traffic accidents that resulted in serious injuries or fatalities. That's also down from 195 major crashes that were investigated in 2023. And if we switch over to felony domestic violence. Domestic violence, very important. Obviously, as I talked about on the first slide, 23 of our homicides are domestic violence related. If you take a look at felony domestic violence cases, and so we saw a slight increase in 2024, 825 of those cases were investigated by a combination of sworn personnel, including our domestic violence unit, our felony assault unit, and our stop officers. And I'll go into stop a little bit more in just a minute. That is an increase from 2023. And of the 825 felony domestic violence cases in 2024, 538 of those cases were felony strangulation investigations. You may remember when I stood here last year, in April of 23, April 30th of 23, there was a change to the Ohio Revised Code that made strangulation a felony. That increased by several 100% our felony domestic violence cases. And so we had to figure out a way to handle all of those investigations. Our solution, and one of the more creative solutions I've seen around the United States, is to create our STOP team, strangulation team operations for prosecution. And that is comprised of 62 patrol officers who are specially trained by our domestic violence detectives. And we now have a domestic violence STOP coordinator who is a domestic violence detective. She is responsible for all of the training for those 62 officers. And when a strangulation occurs in patrol, those STOP officers respond to conduct the investigation. Of those 538 strangulation investigations that I mentioned, 367 of those investigations were completed by by STOP team officers, and then the remainder were completed by domestic violence detectives. In 2023, to give you some context, there were 707 felony domestic violence cases. And so you might ask yourself, what are we doing to try and impact domestic violence? We are working with our community diligently to try and impact domestic violence. We were very optimistic going into 2024, and as we moved through 2024, there were some really heart-wrenching cases that we may all remember, both from February and June, where parents or foster parents committed murder. And then there were other cases that we saw, which were murder-suicides that involved children, that really impacted detectives and patrol officers and the entire community. However, we have a pilot that is ongoing on this zone, Zone 3, which is the west side of the city, which, when we started the pilot, had the highest number of domestic violence calls in the city. We were working collaboratively with our partners at Nationwide Children's Center for Family Safety and Healing, and in real time, when a patrol officer responds to a domestic violence call, they will contact a domestic violence advocate. 232 times in 2024, those advocates responded to the scene and worked with victims, survivors of domestic violence. Only 7 times in all of those responses did our victims or survivors say, I don't need help. So 7 out of 232 times did someone say, I don't need help. We'll move on to the next slide. Firearms seized, briefly mentioned earlier, slight drop in our firearms seized in 2024. 3,248 down from 3,693 and down slightly from 2022. Glock switches, which you may remember are the small plastic, sometimes 3D printed device that makes a semi-automatic handgun fully automatic. We seized 76 of those this year, up 1 from last year, and significantly up from 2022. That's probably a combination of reasons. One, we're probably counting those better, and two, officers on the street are seeing more of those. And then ghost guns, a slight decrease in 2024 down to 35 from 43 the year before. Next slide, please. In 2024, when you look at this slide, you'll see a slight increase in the statistics for robbery. However, there was a shift in calculation from 23 to 24. So if you look at 2023, that is the number of cases. And if you look at 2024, that is the number of individuals. And so shows a slight increase, but they were calculated somewhat differently, showing the difference in numbers there. You can see that of our 1,503 robberies, 878 of those involved a firearm, and 458 of those were to businesses. I will add, when you look at that slide, that what you don't see is additionally there were 154 carjackings throughout the city, and there were 225 home invasion robberies that occurred. Next slide, please. Take a look at burglaries. Burglaries are down as well. You can see in 2024, 2,240 burglaries, down about 300 from last year, and down from 2022 as well. If you take a look at reported rapes of victims decreased by about 5% 2024 from 23. To break it down even further, reported rapes of adult victims also decreased, and reported rapes of youth victims decreased about 19% in 2024 from 2023. So a slight decrease from 23 to 24. This is a big slide here. If you take a look, this is not different than what you see around the United States and around different major cities. Significant decline in motor vehicle thefts. And so you may ask yourself why? Why are those numbers going down? And I don't think, like much of what we talk about, I don't think it's one specific reason. I think it has to do with our partners that we work with regularly. We work with and meet with on a regular basis the juvenile judges, the juvenile justice system, and with families and parents. Some of you have covered our meetings with family members of both victims and suspects that have committed motor vehicle thefts. And so we're interested in working with our community to resolve issues. If you take a look at 2022, those numbers are really, really high, and then a significant decrease as we move from 2022 to 23 to 24. Add into that Kias and Hyundais, which accounted for about 39% of our motor vehicle thefts this year, had software updates in many of their vehicles, which prevented some of the theft. And then I think a lot of what you do, everyone in this room I think has reported on the numbers of motor vehicle thefts, which has led to a very diligent and committed community that does not want to be a victim of a motor vehicle theft. So they use the club, or they get the software update, or any other devices that prevent their car from being stolen. That covers the crime statistics, and then I'd like to talk a little bit about some of the numerous projects and operations that we do throughout the city regularly. This is through our patrol and our criminal investigation subdivision. So you take a look at Operation Unity. Operation Unity is a pop-up crime deterrent operation that we do throughout the city, and we base that upon evidence of violent crime. Where is violent crime occurring? Where have we had robberies, shootings, homicides? And we assign the patrol zone commander to initiate and run the operation. And if you take a look at Operation Unity, we had 7 Operation Unities in 2024, totaling 142 felony arrests, 56 firearms recovered, 17 stolen vehicles recovered, and you can see the fentanyl that we recovered there. Operation Moonlight, which many people in this room have reported on, a very successful operation that we had from May until December of this year. And Operation Moonlight, really their mission is to be very visible in areas that there are a large number of people gathering. And so as we move through the spring into the summer and into part of the fall, those are festivals, those are parks, those are parties that officers on Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays will work, and they will come in, and their job is to engage. And they work with the community. It's yielded a lot of great information for our detectives and our patrol officers, as well as just some great relationships that are ongoing for the community. And then as we move into the fall and winter, we regularly meet with Columbus City School Security and sporting events. We saw 2 years ago, moving east from the West Coast, there were some extreme violence at sporting events in high schools. And so we shifted Moonlight in the fall and winter to go to sporting events. And so it's not uncommon to attend a high school basketball game or football game and see Moonlight officers present there. And you can see from the statistics, not quite as many enforcement statistics, which is okay. They're building relationships and they're letting people know why they are there. One other operation after Moonlight is Safe Streets. Safe Streets has evolved over the years. It's largely a summer, June, July, August operation, and it has shifted from a cookie cutter approach throughout the city to working with zone patrol commanders to say, what are the community's concerns in the zone that you work? And so some of those were community engagement. Some of them were working with juveniles. Some of them were trying to impact thefts from motor vehicles. And so each zone had a different project that they worked on, and the statistics that you can see there were yielded from all 6 patrol zones. After Safe Streets, Operation Burnout. And again, like so many of our operations, Operation Burnout has evolved over the years, probably for a number of reasons, not the least of which is our enforcement action. Most of you covered an October 5th operation that we formally did where we met in this room beforehand with a large group of officers and a large group of different resources, because we were aware through our criminal intelligence analysts of a very, very large street takeover that was going to occur that night. We also knew that that group was likely involved in a really violent street takeover in Cleveland the weekend before. And so the officers that were here with a purpose. It was to keep our community safe and to let folks know that we're coming into our community to hurt each other, that was not acceptable. You can see throughout the year, you may not know that there were 5 Operation Burnouts, and those are the total enforcement actions that we took. The difference, I mentioned that burnouts have evolved over the last 3 years from a very formal planned event to kind of pop-up events that might happen 1 hour or 2 hours before a street corner is taken over. And so we have resources on each shift every day, 24 hours a day, to activate and counteract the burnouts and street takeovers. And then there's some other projects, operations that you may not be familiar with that we have worked very diligently on and have had an impact on safety in our communities. Those, and I'll just go through those really quick. I don't have slides on those, but most recently you may have seen Operation Slay Crime, and so that was a large group of officers that were assigned to Easton to interact with anyone they came into contact with and try to deter crime, thefts from motor vehicles, robberies. We also had a Sullivan Avenue project, which the focal point was Burroughs Elementary. And The statistics and evidence said that the amount of crime around Burroughs Elementary was unacceptable, and the officers on the Hilltop, the commander on Zone 3, led that project. That occurred in September and October. And then throughout the year, we had an active group of directed patrol officers, the Wedgwood enforcement team, that their mission was to make the Wedgwood community safe for everyone in the Wedgwood community. And I think they accomplished that mission. In addition to that, we have directed patrols every day on every zone throughout the city. They might deal with our Department of Neighborhoods and homeless outreach. They might deal with the nighttime economy when bars close. You'll remember 2 years ago we saw violence centered around bar closings. And so we took steps at the beginning of 2024 to impact that in a positive manner. And then anything that our officers learn from the community that is important to them about safety, our officers are involved with projects and operations to counteract that. I'm sure we'll have time for questions later, and at this time I'll turn it over to Assistant Chief Nick Conviz from the support branch.
Good afternoon. I'm Assistant Chief Nick Conviz, and I oversee our support branch, which entails our public accountability subdivision, overseen by Deputy Chief Mark Denner, and then our support subdivision, which is overseen by Deputy Chief Tim Myers. The Mini Real-Time Crime Center, I'm always excited to talk about because they provide such vital support to our communities. And I'm going to talk about a couple success stories, but the important thing about it is most of their success happens before patrol officers even arrive on a scene. And so what they do is they leverage any technology that's available, and they are able to provide direct support for investigations and help us solve crime. The big thing in 2024, the city has continued to invest in increasing our technological abilities, and so we've increased LPRs, we've increased cameras, and as you'll hear in some of these stories, that is exactly what is used for some of their successes. In August, there was a homicide on the east side of Columbus. Started as a shootout, well, not a shootout, it was a shooting in a parking lot of a apartment complex. And a suspect fired at a victim, and the victim took off running. A second suspect was going after chasing the victim as he ran. He ran through a gas station parking lot, across the street, and into another gas station parking lot where he stumbled and fell. The entire time, a suspect was firing at him. Of course, the suspects fled the scene before officers had a chance to arrive and before 911 calls had even been made. The witnesses that found the victim laying there were only able to give good descriptions of the victim, but not the suspects. And so our Real-Time Crime Center folks heard this aired and immediately began pulling up the cameras in the area and were able to find and locate quickly video footage of all three locations, which allowed them to air in real time before officers had arrived on scene, actual descriptions and directions of travel of the suspects. Additionally, when one of the patrol sergeants arrived at the first shooting location at the apartment complex, the sergeant was having a difficult time finding the exact location where the rounds were fired. And so our real-time crime folks were able to watch the sergeant arrive on a camera and radio to him and direct him directly where the evidence would be found in real time on there, thus ensuring that we were able to secure that evidence. And thankfully, with the work of our folks in the Real-Time Crime Center, that case was able to be closed quickly by arrest. The second one was a fatal fight that occurred at 7th and High, just outside of the Kroger there. And we got multiple 911 calls regarding somebody beating a male with a skateboard. And we also had another 911 call where a caller reported that somebody was recording the incident as it was going on. And so officers began responding. A security guard actually was able to detain the suspect out of that case. But when officers arrived, they were not able to get the witness. The witness had already left, and thus the video of the homicide had left. And so our folks in the Real-Time Crime Center, particularly Officer Cheers, was able to pull up video footage of that, identified it very quickly, was able to get a good description of the witness in that case. as luck would have it, he's leaving headquarters to go on the employee bus going to his car. And as the bus is driving down the street, he passes a bus station and notices the witness at the bus station. And so he immediately is able to radio patrol. That person got on a COTA bus, and he coordinated with patrol, was able to get that bus stopped. They got the witness identified on that bus, and detectives were able to do an interview and recover the evidence of that homicide. So it's pretty incredible. And that was same day. It's pretty incredible how the work, and I could go on for hours of the success stories. This is just two out of the Real-Time Crime Center. It is, we can't invest enough in the Real-Time Crime Center. It's wonderful. We have in 2024 increased our staffing. We are starting the process to hire full-time permanent folks to work in the Real-Time Crime Center as we continue to build this out. And I am so excited to see what the coming years have for this. It's just going to be continued success as they support our patrol officers there. Moving on to our crime lab. In 2024, the crime lab welcomed 2 new forensic scientists and 4 new evidence technicians in our DNA and our firearms sections. They are very busy sections. One success story out of there, they don't just work in the lab. They're required to go to court. They have a more robust, responsibility than just working behind machines and computers. And they were able to enter DNA, do testing on DNA, and were able to get a hit on 2 cold case sexual assault cases in Columbus. But the CODIS system was able to link that to a case in Phoenix, Arizona, and another case in Austin, Texas, all unsolved cases. So Sergeant McConnell reached out to get the case files from the other states and the other cases, and was able to identify a suspect, and that suspect has been charged with rape and kidnapping. So it's all because of the linkage that they were able to provide. So they really provide profound support to our detectives and help us get successful outcomes in court. They were able to achieve and maintain the gold standard for ballistic evidence in 2024. And what that means is when we are able to, we have an incident that occurs and there is ballistic evidence of the scene, shell casings or bullet fragments, the gold standard is having that evidence processed and the information entered into the NIBIN system to look for links within 2 business days after the incident occurs. And our lab in 92.8% of the cases was able to achieve that in 2024. So pretty exciting stuff there. They continue to be really reliant on grant funding, and luckily, with the gracious help of some of the grants that we received in 2024, 100% of their training was funded by grants. They were also able to purchase numerous pieces of equipment. They were able to purchase centrifuges and digital imaging devices and upgrade some of our lab technology to allow them to continue to be successful. So it's nice that we are able to have those grants, and they play a huge role in our crime lab. Moving on to our recruitment. In 2024, we were able to, we graduated 106 new CPD officers. We currently have 2 academy classes in the academy with 69 CPD officers in there. You might remember in 2023, we received a $1 million grant, and it was earmarked to be used for public safety hiring. And so through that grant in 2024, we were able to retain the services of All-Star Talent. And what they did was they came in and they did a comprehensive review of our hiring. They looked at every step of the process of where we get candidates, the recruitment process, but then also our testing process and the whole hiring process up through a final offer of employment being given. And what they were able to do is they were able to shed some light and make some very actionable recommendations on how we could streamline the process, keep candidates engaged, and do precision recruiting. Also, thanks to that grant we were awarded, we were able to bring in performance protocol. And what they did was they did advanced recruitment boot camps. They were able to train everybody on our training staff, very dynamic training. And I have no doubt that moving forward that training that everyone received was going to pay dividends as we continue to recruit in the coming years there. So with that, I will turn it over to First Assistant Chief LaShawna Potts.
Good afternoon. I am LaShawna Potts, the First Assistant Chief of the Columbus Division of Police, overseeing the Special Services Branch, which encompasses both the Community and Wellness Bureau and a Special Operations Subdivisions. I want to acknowledge my deputy chiefs as well, Deputy Chief Sago and Deputy Chief Ally. I take great pride in the significant progress we made in 2024. This year's success was propelled by the strength of our partnerships and collaborative efforts across this city. Working closely with grassroots organizations have been vital in advancing our shared goals of building trust, enhancing safety, and reinforcing the relationship between law enforcement and the communities that we serve. Together, we made meaningful strides towards fostering a safer, more connected Columbus. Our commitment to engage with the next generation remains steadfast. We expanded our summer youth program through our TAPS program and broadened our presence in Columbus City Schools via our PSC program. Our bold, proactive approach to reducing violent crime took shape through our 3-year initiative, Operation Under Triple Digits, in partnership with Mothers of Murdered Columbus Children, where we share critical data with our community partners to amplify their efforts. We maintain an unwavering focus on dismantling drug rings, reducing gang violence, and addressing group violence. At the same time, we remain dedicated to improving the quality of life, from addressing abandoned cars, to drug houses, to late-night establishments, and assisting our unsheltered population. With these efforts, we sent a clear message that we are committed to creating lasting, positive change. Additionally, our ongoing collaboration with the Columbus Violence Reduction Initiative has proven invaluable. Through conducting custom notifications and co-hosting call-in sessions, we targeted the small percentage of individuals responsible for driving crime in our city. This partnership has allowed us to identify and address the root causes of violence, prioritize intervention efforts, and implement solutions that deliver enduring positive outcomes. We also worked intentionally to deepen our community engagement, making our presence known through events across this city. Every action and interaction was centered on one core message: we are in this together, and we are committed to building a stronger, safer Columbus for all. Now I'll go to the slides. I'm very grateful to be able to work in partnership with not only CPD, the ATF, the Ohio State Police, the Franklin County Sheriff's Office, and Franklin County Prosecutor's Office. As of December of 2024, 222 firearms were seized, and 1,045 casings have been entered into NIBIN to complete the full year of 2024. This has allowed us to really go after those targeted individuals who perpetuate violence in the city of Columbus. Next slide. Organized Crime Bureau. This is just a snapshot, and I'll go into the different units that make up this bureau. But in 2024, we confiscated in total street value over $50 million of narcotics recovered. Not only that, but we did 1,806 search warrants, recovered 650 firearms, and $2 million in cash. Next slide. Gang enforcement. As of December of 2024, we conducted 507 search warrants, 223 firearms recovered, and 17 Glock switches. We also arrested 136 gang members, including a 191-count indictment of the Livingston and Lonsdale Bloods. Before going on to the next slide, I wanted to talk about our organized crime unit. This bureau is made up of economic crimes, gang investigations, Gang Enforcement Unit A, our INTAC Unit A and B, HIDA Task Force, PAC Unit, Abatement, Exploited Children, ICAC Task Force, FBI Task Force, and the U.S. Marshals, known as SOFAS. As a collective, I already talked about the $50 million worth of illegal drugs, but that's not all. We made 2,557 arrests, assisted patrol 121 times. We sent out 238 abatement letters. We arrested 171 Johns, 250 sex workers were arrested. We conducted 207 structural search warrants. We had 18 direct indictments, 12 street interdictions, 191 count indictment on a Livingston and Lonsdale gang, 250 human trafficking tips we received, 211 human trafficking victims we referred, 1.5 million in stolen funds were investigated. We also indicted the BL 800 gang with an additional 8 additional indictments this year. We seized 137 illegal packages, 16 criminal liquor violations, and 19 indictments involving exploited children cases. This slide is not up here. I also want to talk about our Special Service Bureau. This bureau consists of our SWAT, K-9, counterterrorism, heliport, underwater search and rescue, special events, emergency management unit, mounted and public order safety, better known as POPs. Collectively, they've conducted 129 missions, 63 search warrants, 25 barricaded or hostage situations, 24 VIP or witness protection details, 85 community events, 723 felony arrests, with 28 being for murder and 73 being for felonious assault. They've answered 4,399 calls for service, conducted 24 missing person searches, 71 non-accident citations, 313 arrest assists with patrol, handled 42 swatting cases, charged 13 criminal charges against offenders who threatened schools, 27 joint hazardous assessment deployments, responded to over 112 school threats, 155 protests, demonstration, marches, events, and other crowd management, recovered $112,000 worth of property, recovered 3 bodies, participated in 7 land searches, 54 call-outs. Also during that time, they competed in 2 international mounted competition, placing 6th, 8th, and 10th respectively, and trained 29 different agencies for a total of 68 officers across the country on crowd management. They also, during that time, assisted in major events such as Arnold, Pride, Red, White, and Boom. You can go to the next slide. Community engagement. In community engagement for 2024, in partnership with the Columbus Police Foundation and our gracious donors, we hosted 120 senior citizens during our Valentine's Day dance. 1,000 young adults were provided a safe space at Red, White, and Boom. 200 vehicles were registered for our 2nd annual Rich Street War in partnership with our COSI. 10,000 pieces of candy were given out to children during trunk or treat. 500 families were provided a Thanksgiving dinner during the annual turkey giveaway. 20,000 toys collected for 59 children of families affected by homicide, but also included other families of Central Ohio in need during the holiday season, and this was in partnership with ABC6 and Toys for Tots. We had 491 community events attended by our community liaison officers. They also attended 449 Block Watch and Civic Association meetings. We held 2 Citizen Police Academy classes, and we also hosted several sporting programs with Fire and Parks and Rec through Inspire Sports. But we didn't stop there. In conjunction with Starfish Foundation, we also participated in many engagements, including giving up over 2,200 books through Books and Badges, 500 brand-new coats during our coat drive, delivered to 200 families during Thanksgiving in the Rosewood Apartments during Cops and Gobblers, serviced over 1,000 people during the Linden Trunk or Treat, participated in the Special Olympics, and provided over 500 children with school supplies. This slide is not up there, but I want to talk about our community wellness subdivision and some of their highlights. Recruiting, TAPS, diversity, equity, inclusion, cadets in the PSC units. Together, cadet class number 5 acquired an 88.2 diversity level. It is the most diverse class to date and also had our largest female class. The DEI unit, which was created back in 2024, created a multi-language victim resource door hanger and indiscreet cards for victim resources in partnership with the FBI. We also partnered with Zone 1, Lieutenant Sweeney, to design assistant placards to help new Americans to be displayed in bathrooms in Easton. We created, in partnership with Defensive Tactics at the Academy, a self-defense class for domestic violence victims. In 2024, our CBD recruiting unit had 2,766 applications for the position of police officers, which was the highest application process since 2018. The recruiting unit also hosted 45 Fitness in 2024, Get Fit and Informed, which provided an atmosphere for people who want to be police officers to get them ready to join the academy. The youth recruiting team attended 121 events at high schools and other locations around the city. We hosted a summer day camp that had 425 youth. We had TAPS programs in 4 middle schools, Johnson Park, Dominion, Medina, and Sherwood. And we also volunteered through our PSCs for 33 events in 2024. But we didn't stop there. We increased the numbers from 54 members in our PSC. It's the highest it's been in 4 years. And last but not least, our Community and Wellness Bureau for our motorcycle and freeway. We don't just do community engagement and enforcement. We also look for violators in traffic. We issued 14,322 citations. We made 354 arrests. We assisted patrol 378 times. But in that time, we also answered 2,685 311 complaints. But our officers were also awarded awards for excellence in OVI enforcement, and they also conducted 200 dignitary funeral and team escorts. We did add a therapy dog with Officer Seacrest and Bodie, and we added 9 new chaplains in 2024. On top of that, the Mobile Crisis Response Unit was awarded 6 unmarked police cars by Public Health after they were issued a gracious grant. And that wraps up my subdivisions. Thank you. And I'll turn it back over to Chief Bryant.
I know that's a lot of information we're throwing at you, a lot of information. We have so many community partners that work with us daily, and we wouldn't be able to do half the work that we do without them. So we have a few of them that are here with us today that are going to speak and share a few words about our partnerships. And I'm going to present them in the order in which they are going to speak, so if you could just come up in that order. Pastor Michael Young, he's representing the Chiefs Advisory Panel as well as the faith-based group, community group. Melissa Thomas St. Clair from Mothers of Murdered Columbus Children. Kenny Hampton from the African American Wellness Agency, and our community advocate, Lisa Boggs. So in that order, thank you.
Good afternoon. As Chief Bryant introduced me, my name is Michael Young. I do have the privilege and the pleasure to be the lead pastor of the City of Grace Church located here in Columbus. I also have the honor of being part of the Chiefs Advisory Panel. But before I was any of that, I was a young man that was born and raised in the city of Columbus. Above everything else, I'm a lover of my city. As we gather here today, I think it's right and it's appropriate as we see some of our major crime stats on the decrease. I think it's right and appropriate for us to pause and to acknowledge this positive trend. But what we also recognize is we recognize that this positive trend is in no way a sign of perfection. It's just a sign of progress. And because it's just progress and not perfection, we recognize that there is a tremendous amount of work that is still in front of us. There is a tremendous amount of hope and aspirations as we wake up every single day to do the work to make our city a better city. When we look at these positive trends and we look at these numbers, what we recognize, and it's already been acknowledged, is behind these numbers are passionate people, people who are passionate about making Columbus a safer and more successful city. It's people who wake up every day and work in the shadows. They sacrifice their time, their energy, their efforts. They contribute their gifts and their talents to make our city better, to make it safer. We're grateful for these people who do this work, and many times they do it without acknowledgement. It's not just people, however, working in silos. One of the key words that we continue to hear from the mayor to the chief to other people who have spoken already is the word collaboration. It's not just people, but it's people working in partnership. It's elected officials, it's civic leaders, it is CPD, their leadership, it is the people who are on the ground, it is community organizations, it's youth organizations, it is the faith-based community. It is people who, like myself, are lovers of our city. I think it's right and appropriate for us to acknowledge also some of the tangible investments that the city has made. I see my brother Ralph Carter here. We have Mothers of Murdered Children. There has been significant dollars that have been invested in organizations that work on the ground with our young people, work on the ground with individuals who can be influenced and impacted in a positive way without ever having to get put in cuffs. Also want to acknowledge some of the things that First Assistant Chief Potts began to recognize and acknowledge. I think it's commendable that CPD leadership and just the entire organization has sought to build bridges and tear down walls. Investments that they've made in our community, showing up at events, not to police the event, but to actually build partnership and genuine relationship. It goes a tremendous way. As a representative of the advisory panel, one of the things that I really admire is the humility of the CPD leadership. Their willingness to say, hey, we can't do it all on our own. Their willingness to acknowledge that they don't have all the answers. Their willingness to be transparent, to be truthful as we seek to build trust. And we recognize that that's not something that's done overnight, but I commend the progress that has been made in these spaces. As we talk about these partnerships, as we talk about these people who work in a passionate way, I think the thing that drives us all is we all have a picture of a brighter future. Obviously, I'm a preacher, I'm a pastor, so I subscribe to the scriptures. And one of my favorite scriptures is it says, without a vision, people perish. We're working based upon vision. We're working based upon a better and brighter future for your children, for my children. I'm a father of three. I have a 21-year-old daughter, a 19-year-old son, and I have a 12-year-old son. And I want the city of Columbus that I leave to them to be better than the city of Columbus that I inherited from my forefathers. So we passionately work together because of the vision that we have. And then last but certainly not least, there was an old church mother that told me one time, Anna, she said, Mike, you should work like it all depends on you. And you should pray like it all depends on God. So we're going to continue to work collectively. We're going to continue to work in partnership, but we're also going to pray because Dr. Jones, the scripture said, if my people who are called by my name would humble themselves and pray, seek God's face, turn from our wicked ways, he said, then he would hear from heaven on high. He would forgive our sins and he would heal our land. I don't know about you, but I want healing in Columbus. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm Melissa Thomas St. Clair, founder of Mothers of Murdered Columbus Children. Thank you, Mayor Ginther, Chief Bryant, First Assistant Chief Potts, Chief Bacher, Chief Convis, and all of CPD. Mothers of Murdered Columbus Children celebrates the collective achievements of 2024 in the ongoing fight to reduce violent crime, provide intervention services, and support families impacted by tragedy in Columbus, Ohio. With a steadfast commitment to our mission, MOMCC continues to stand as a beacon of hope and advocacy for a safer city. On November 13th, 2023, through a live that I was hosting with our Columbus community, Operation Under Triple Digits was born. The first agency to jump on board saying yes to this operation was the Columbus Division of Police. Central to our 2024 efforts was Operation Under Triple Digits, a bold and data-driven initiative aimed at keeping annual homicides under 100. This citywide effort brought together the Columbus Division of Police, local and federal law enforcement agencies, state and county officials, faith leaders, community organizations, and most importantly, the residents of Columbus, Ohio. Through strategic partnerships and evidence-based practices, Operation Under Triple Digits has yielded significant results. In 2024, Columbus saw a measurable decline in homicides, reflecting the power of collaboration and a shared commitment to peace. Highlights of this initiative include proactive crime prevention. MOMCC worked alongside law enforcement and community leaders to organize community coverings, quarterly meetings with Columbus Division of Police, numerous peace-building events. MOMCC hosted a historic march alongside CPD, Apostle Nikki Hampton, lead pastor of Fresh Start Worship Center, Pastor Joe Graves, lead pastor of City View Church, other faith leaders, city agencies, Ralph Carter with We Are Linden, other community organizations, and dozens of mothers impacted by tragic murder. MOMCC launched our successful Trendy Trades, Fishing Not Fighting, and Gun Safety Summer Youth programs that supported about 100 youth. These efforts and more empowered residents to take an active role in safeguarding their own communities. Enhanced crime intervention. By leveraging real-time crime data provided by the Columbus Division of Police, MOMCC deployed resources to high-impacted areas, hosting emergency response initiatives and providing immediate support to families affected by violence. Our crime scene support team leveraged our lived experiences and community relationships to comfort families at crime scenes, providing pertinent updates to families, and kept the crime scene safe through de-escalation efforts. MOMCC visited youth prisoners at DYS and alongside with First Assistant Chief Potts, visited adult offenders in ODCR. These visits served as growth mindset opportunities for individuals who were set to be released and individuals who will never be released to society. We were able to push the message of Operation Under Triple Digits inside of prison systems and leverage our relationships on how they can serve the communities from inside prison walls. Community engagement. MOMCC facilitated healing circles as well as quarterly meetings with Columbus Division of Police Major Crimes Bureau, bridging the gap between residents and local authorities while fostering trust and dialogue. These events were instrumental in reducing tension and creating actionable solutions to address root causes of violence. We hosted one of the city's largest fall family fun festivals that reached over 1,500 residents. We thank all of the community partners who supported this annual engagement opportunity. Mothers of Murdered Columbus Children partnered with well over 40 community partners to support their missions, the reduction of major crime that results in homicide. Our vision for 2025. As we transition into 2025, MOMCC remains committed to sustaining the momentum of Operation Under Triple Digits, while expanding our prevention and intervention support service efforts. We will continue to strengthen collaborations with Columbus Division of Police, other law enforcement agencies, government agencies, elected officials, and the community. We're striving for a safer Columbus. We want to thank Mayor Ginther, Columbus City Council, County Commissioner Erica Crawley, and all of our private donors for their sustained support in our efforts in reducing and putting our pain to purpose. We want to give a very special shout out to all of the divisions within the Columbus Division of Police. Each of you are the hub to all of our efforts in the city's safety. We want to thank you for being accessible, and we want to thank you for humanizing your lives and becoming our family. MOMCC will have a laser focus on these three areas: domestic violence that results in homicides. We recently appointed Ronette Harrison as our Director of Domestic Violence Intervention to work closely With CPD and organizations that specialize in DV, we want to focus on crime against known individuals, and we're going to tackle that through community engagement and, of course, our youth. Through continued youth programming with the support of city funding through our mayor's office, private donors, and community support. This year has been a testament to what we can achieve together with shared purpose. Every life saved and every family supported reminds us of why we do this work. We've lost our children, but through that pain, we can save you from losing yours. Mothers of Murdered Columbus Children are mothers on a mission. And our fight for safe streets will not waver because it's off the blood of our lost children. Mothers of Murdered Columbus Children thanks our partners, support, and entire Columbus community for standing with us in 2024. And we say together, let's keep each other alive in 2025. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Gotta get used to, sometimes the mic is a little lower for the taller guy. My name is Kenny Hampton. I serve as the president of the African American Male Wellness Agency. We're the health and wellness arm to the National Center for Urban Solutions Enterprises, founded by Mr. and Mrs. John and Pam Gregory. And on behalf of the entire organization, I want to say thank you to Mayor Ginther, thank you to Chief Bryant, thank you to First Assistant Chief Potts, and the entire Columbus Police Department. I don't just stand here as a president of this national organization. I stand here as a cousin. I stand here as a son. I stand here as a grandson of current and former Detroit police officers. I'm born and raised in the city of Detroit, and I have a deep appreciation and a lot of respect for officers that go out every single day to protect us and to serve our community. So on behalf of the entire organization, we want to say thank you to every single officer that is a part of the entire division for the work that you do to keep us safe. Our organization prides ourselves in partnership. We believe that there's power in partnership. You've heard from several organizations and you've heard from different leaders across the city of Columbus. And the work that we're doing in this city to change lives and ultimately save lives, it cannot be done by ourselves. It's not an individual assignment. This is a group study. This is a group assignment. This is a group project. And it's going to take every single community-based organization, every single individual of the community to buy in. And so we're excited because we're able to extend the reach of the work that CPD is doing with the events that we're having throughout the year. Whether it's Proud Dad Cookout earlier in the year where we have nearly thousands of dads coming together to have a great time with their kids, to learn and have access to things that's going to help them with their kindergarten readiness for their kids. Or whether it's Uplift Her, where we have thousands of folks coming out to help us raise awareness to save the lives of our black women. Or it's our Real Men Real Talk Summit, when we're having CPD do special duty for one of our notable or celebrity guests that's coming in town. Or it's Black Men's Wellness Day, where we're having tens of thousands of people come out, and we learn that 8 out of the 10 men that we screened, where last year we screened over 2,000 men, 8 out of 10 had high blood pressure. 56.7% had no idea. And I was one of them a couple years ago. But we say it's the most fun you'll ever have at a doctor's appointment, but we also thank CPD because it's the safest time that you'll probably ever have at a doctor's appointment, thanks to the partnership that we have with our incredible members of CPD. We also try to stand in the gap in this space of trying to deter the homicides, deter the suicide. And so we're having the monthly Real Men Real Talk conversations with our men, taking the community. We pride ourselves on bringing the clinic to the community, right, with our free health screenings that we're having at our events at our Black Men's Wellness Day. But we also do mental wellness work. But the cool thing about it is that we're able to have officers that are able to participate at these events, whether it's getting a free health screening or coming to one of our Real Men Real Talks, where we're having a safe environment, exposing men to talk therapy. To do what? Ultimately save lives. And so as we do the work that we're doing throughout the year and what we've done over in 2024, we can't thank CPD enough, because we're excited about what's next, what's to come, because we truly understand that there's so much more that we're going to do in 2025. We expect to see tens of thousands more on the second Saturday of August this year at our Black Men's Wellness Day and at all of our events. But we're excited even more because of the fact that it will be an incredible time, but it'll also be a safe time. And that's because of our partnership that we have with CPD. On behalf of the entire organization, we do have members here representing our organization. Thank you so much for all that you do. But we're excited about this partnership, and there's more to come. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone, for being here today. I want to especially thank the Columbus Division of Police for putting on that uniform every day, putting your badge on, getting out there in the streets to make us safe. And that's what every citizen in Columbus wants, is a safer neighborhood and a safer community. My name is Lisa Boggs. I'm a community advocate, and I've been coordinating our block watch over here on the hilltop near Sullivan Avenue for 28 years. So I've met a lot of the different police officers on the streets, a lot of the chiefs, the Mayor Ginther. I mean, I've met a lot of different people out here trying to make our neighborhood a safer place. When I started the block watch 28 years ago, it was, to address thefts of cars in the neighborhood. That was kind of our main thing. 28 years ago, 3 decades ago, it was mostly, the break-ins and things like that. But I've quickly, meeting with our division of police and talking about the broken window theory, I learned basically that a lot of crime is invited into the neighborhoods because of, the broken window theory and, people not taking care of their community, throwing trash on the ground, blighted houses, things of that nature. So I started organizing cleanups, and I've been doing that for probably 22 to 23 years, out here in these streets also with my bucket, my grabber. I'm picking up litter. I'm picking up things along Sullivan Avenue that you wouldn't believe. I'm seeing things that you would not believe in the neighborhoods. And so that was kind of my main thing, was to clean up trash and make our neighborhood a cleaner, more safe place to live. But I also realized that bringing the community together for different events was where it's at too, where, we had police officers come to our events, and we've built relationships through these events and through the cleanups. We have, our chiefs even coming to our events, coming to our cleanups, coming to our National Night Out events, National Day Out now. We've had all of these different events that bring, our law enforcement, our bike unit, our, all of our different little units, our liaison division. We bring them in, and, my neighbors are meeting all these officers, and I really believe it's making our neighborhood a safer place to live by doing that. And so, I know a lot of the chiefs, through working with the technology departments and working with, trying to inspire like a police substation. We had cameras, bringing in cameras, the license plate readers. I mean, we've done ABC's a CPD, Neighborhood Pride. I mean, there's all these things we've done in the last 28 years, almost 3 decades, where I've met a lot of our leadership in police and in our vice units, our INTAC, our liaisons. I mean, all these different, I've met a lot of people and a lot of good people who put on this uniform every day and work hard for us. I'd like our neighbors to meet more of our people, our officers, and not, they might not get as involved as Lisa Boggs does, like every day getting out, sending emails, calling people out, doing things like I do, but they can actually do a ride-along. They can do the Citizens Police Academy. They can contact their liaison officer, because there's liaison officers to cover this whole entire city. So we have resources for people to get involved and take their neighborhoods back, and I hope to see more of that in 2025.
Thank you so much, Lisa, and for everyone that's joined us, all of our partners, our great division of police. You heard it over and over again. Our momentum comes down to collaboration, partnership, and a shared determination to build a brighter, safer, and more peaceful future for our city. But this effort extends far beyond those of us gathered here today. It includes all of you, the people of Columbus. So many of you have already stepped up and continue to do so on a regular basis. Thank you for doing your part, for being involved. Each of us has a role to play in our own homes and in our own neighborhoods when it comes to keeping our loved ones safe. Know where your kids are and who they're with. Monitor their social media. Check out their rooms, their backpacks, and those of folks entering your home. Set a curfew and enforce it. Lock up your guns in your home and keep them away from children and those who may be a risk to themselves or others. And continue to come forward with tips and information when police are working diligently to solve a crime. It takes all of us pitching in and doing what we can to make our city safer. And with the passion and support of our vast network of dedicated and proven partners helping to carry us forward, I'm confident we'll continue to achieve meaningful progress together. I know we've had a lot of information and stats and data shared with you. We'd be happy to take your questions. I think what I'd like to do is prioritize questions regarding safety first. If you have questions about snow or the Buckeyes or any of those types of things, we'll ask you to hold on to those until we take some of those safety questions. Yes, Kevin.
Hi, Mayor. Can you talk about the domestic violence cases? Is there any insight as to why they're going up and what the city can do to try to drive those numbers down? We had a homicide this morning, domestic violence on Chittenden Avenue this morning. Can you address that?
Well, I might look to the chief or her team to respond with some more detail. I think we've seen an uptick in domestic violence and domestic violence homicides since the great pandemic. And I think we have seen it across the country. And so this is something the Division of Police cannot solve. And this is why we've invested millions of dollars into our partnership with Choices, the only domestic violence shelter in Central Ohio, to open up more beds for families in crisis to get them out of those domestic violence situations. But this is an area where the police are part of the solution. But I'm going to need, leaders like Pastor Mike Young and other faith leaders, our partners in the community, working with everything from the Shelter Board, Lutheran Social Services, other domestic violence organizations. Melissa spoke to this as well, for us to get to the bottom of what's going on and to do more to get families in crisis the support and resources they need before a fatality takes place. Chief, you or the team want to speak any more to it?
No, you're correct, Mayor. But I just wanted to also acknowledge As you see, our community partners up here, they are significant in helping us to reduce this domestic violence number, as well as you could see some of them, the Ohio Women Against Domestic Violence. We have so many partners, we couldn't just name them all, so that's why we put a slide up, but we can't do this alone. So our partnerships, they matter, they're important. It's not just about enforcement, it is about education, it is about resources, it's about economics, it's about so many different things, and it doesn't just start by responding to a run. It's about making sure that families have what they need to be able to sustain. What you did see a lot during the pandemic was a lot of families that were in close quarters, that there weren't enough outlets. People weren't able to go to school, they weren't able to go to work. So unfortunately, like you said, across the country, you saw an increase in domestic violence. So we're working with a lot of our community partners to try to address those concerns and bring that down. So I didn't get a chance. I'd like to thank some of our city partners as well. Office of Violence Prevention, Columbus Violence Reduction, Columbus City Schools, Columbus Fire Department, Columbus Recreation and Parks, Department of Neighborhoods, our city council, and our city attorney's office. We also work with the prosecutor's office and our juvenile court judges, Columbus Police Foundation, the FOP Foundation, as well as our FOP leadership. They are all integral and they're all important in what we do, and we would not be able to do any of this work without them.
And Kevin, the only other thing I would add is stay tuned. We've asked Director Rita Shack, who leads our Office of Violence Prevention, to put together a plan in partnership with, all elements, as we talked about prevention, intervention, enforcement. But Director Shack will be leading the way, and we hope to have a plan here in the next couple of months for us to act on. Yes?
Homicides involving those under the age of 21, juveniles. They were pretty consistent numbers this year compared to last year. So what more can be done so we can see a dramatic drop in that area like we did with motor vehicle thefts and homicides?
We're working closely with, like we said, the juvenile judges, and we're doing a lot of work with the Columbus City Schools. So we're hoping to, you're seeing a slight decrease, and we're hoping to decrease that even more. But it's going to take time, and it's going to take a lot of work through the collaboration and efforts that we're doing. But we are working towards that goal, and we've had some pretty successful meetings with our juvenile court judges, as well as the Columbus City Schools.
You mentioned you were going to add 180 new police officers. Is that actually going to add more officers to the street, or does that simply fill in those who have retired or so on? So is that actually going to add officers to the street? Is that just simply supplement what's already there?
So what we are seeing is a decrease in our attrition, which means that we're not seeing as many officers leave as we have in the past years. So as we add officers to our force, we are seeing an increase in our officer numbers. But as you know, officers are going to retire, so that number will fluctuate. But we have seen a slowdown in the number of officers that are retiring. So we have seen an increase.
I think, Kevin, though, it reinforces, to the chief's point, we have to continue to invest in the number of classes that we have been over the last couple of years. We've invested in more police classes than ever before in the city's history, and we're going to have to continue to do that, because you're right, we have separations, we have retirements every year, but based on what we're funding, and as Assistant Chief Convis talked about the number of folks that actually went through the academy, we're making progress. We're just going to have to stay at this for a number of years to get to where we want to be, because our city continues to grow. So we need more officers. We also need to invest in prevention and intervention, but we have to continue to invest in enforcement as well.
I believe it was Assistant Chief Potts who said that the Mobile Crisis Response Unit was just awarded through grants some unmarked cars. Has the number of calls that they're responding to gone up? Are you able to give any statistics on how often they're going out and the work that they are doing? Any updates on their team?
Do you have specific numbers? So, you're right, we don't have those specific numbers, but we can get them to you.
The teams that you put together for homicide, you're starting to see a difference. Do you plan to do that with any other units to see if that will work in those areas as well?
So as Assistant Chief Bacher talked about the non-fatal shooting pilot, we've seen great success in the pilot program that we've done in Zone 6. So our intention is to work in collaboration with the FOP to try to create non-fatal shooting teams for each zone. So we're hoping that by doing that, as you saw the significant increase in our reduction, I'm sorry, in our closure rate for non-fatal shootings, we think that we will see a significant increase in not only the closure rate increase, but reduction in those non-fatal shootings as we address and arrest the people that are responsible.
It's a great point, Steve. I mean, when you think about it, you talk to officers, non-fatal shooting today is a homicide tomorrow. There's a direct correlation. If we're able to reduce the amount of non-fatal shootings, we know we can continue to see progress and momentum around reducing homicides, especially, again, because we know that it's about just under 500 people that are committing about 50% of the violence in Columbus. And so thinking about those numbers and that strategy, that's why we're so hopeful about the expansion of that pilot and the success we're seeing there.
Going back to domestic homicide, domestic violence real quick, is the number of incidents just being more reported? That increase is so stark from 2022 to now. Are we seeing more people report this also? Not saying that was less then, but it just seems like it's being reported more.
You're referring to not the homicides, but domestic violence cases. So as Assistant Chief Bacher spoke, the law changed. And so when that law changed and it became a felony for strangulation, obviously that number significantly increased because of that. So we did see a significant increase in that number based on the change in the law.
And you had mentioned you've spoken with the Office of Violence Prevention to begin some kind of program. Can you elaborate? What are they planning to do? What are the preliminary discussions on that?
We've charged them with helping us develop a plan that we can implement because, clearly, it is not just 1 year. We've seen now 2 years of a dramatic increase of domestic violence-related homicides, and we collectively as a community need to do something about it. And we can't simply expect the Division of Police to solve that. That's a community problem. That's a crisis that we need to deal with collectively as a community. And so when that plan's developed, we'll certainly share it with you. But it's going to require resources, external partners. I mean, there's so many folks that work in the space of domestic violence in the community that we're going to need their help. And we're going to be drawing upon them to put together a good plan that's going to make a difference.
Is there a plan to add more security cameras in the city? What is that plan?
Well, I think, we heard a little bit about the Mini Real-Time Crime Center. I know that the chief and her team are working very closely with folks in downtown Columbus. Both of those efforts are part of our larger scale effort to put in place a real-time crime center, the old Carolyn Avenue site, in the coming years. And so grateful to the voters that they've continued to support bond issues that will allow us to invest in a 21st century real-time crime center that I think, just based on what we heard of today from Assistant Chief Convis and otherwise, really put our officers on offense in a way that we never have been before. So you're going to see a significant increase in the amount of cameras, but I think probably even more powerful is connecting the different camera systems and having the private sector work with the public sector to really draw upon that and use that information to give better information real time to our officers on the street. Speak to.
Oh, no, yep. Just like the mayor said, we are always looking to leverage technology. So I know that there is a plan to increase some cameras. So we are definitely going to be looking forward to that. Our Mini Real-Time Crime Center has access to a lot of cameras now, and there are a lot of businesses that are allowing us to access the cameras that they already have in place as well, which has been beneficial and helpful to a lot of our officers.
All of this data that you have that you're doing there, so how are you guys partnering with some of the community leaders within the address some of this data-driven that you guys have provided?
New Americans, how are we addressing New Americans, some of this data?
Yes, that's a great question, and that is one that First Assistant Chief Potts, we working closely with those communities to try to make sure that we are addressing their needs as well and making sure that we have liaisons. We want to make sure that these crimes are being reported. We want to make sure that the resources that we need to have available is available for them and get them included as well in any solution. So we're meeting regularly with the community to make sure that we are addressing those concerns.
One more question. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chief.
Thank you, sir.
Appreciate you.